Hey folks, it's your UN ambassador taking a little break from hell and banging out a quick bit of video content. As many of you have likely seen, the ever-estimable Frank-O-Matic recently burned through a few of the NES Hokuto no Ken games, which seems like as good a time as any for me to jump right on that bandwagon and IPAT Hokuto no Ken on the Master System. Hokuto no Ken, aka Fist of the North Star, was released in the US with the licensed characters stripped out and the backgrounds and music changed as Black Belt, which was a favorite of mine as a Master System playing youngster. Nowadays, I'm a huge nerd for the Hokuto no Ken source material, which only makes the game more interesting, to me at least. It's primitive and very simplistic, but still a good time, kinda like Kung Fu Master or what have you. So, ladies and gentlemen, are you ready to get fisted? Alright, let's load this bad boy up. Oh yeah. There's our badass Kenshiro. Let's get on with it. Adjust the volume a bit. That's better. Okay, here we are. And, as you would expect from Kenshiro, he hits people and they explode. You can punch, kick, your sweep, and of course you have a jump kick. And if you crouch and then immediately jump, you jump very high, which can be helpful in a lot of places. I have to note that parallax scrolling is really impressive for an early 8-bit game. This was a launch title for the SMS, at least in the US, in its Black Belt incarnation. Here is Spade. This was the first of the Kingsmen, who are Shin's flunkies, and the first victim of Kenshiro's Hokuto Zankai Ken, the Fist of the Lingering Remorse, in which he sticks his fingers into a guy's head, then pulls them out and gives them a few moments before they die to reflect on the evil of their ways. Anyway, he's dead. So yeah, each stage in this game covers a sort of plot arc from the anime or manga. As you might expect, this is the Kingsman, which is Kenshiro's search for Shin, who put the 7 wounds in his chest and took his girlfriend. That was Diamond I just killed, another of the Kingsmen. Kenshiro used the face-breaking Fist of the North Star on him, I believe. In general, he was not that interesting a villain. But he did have a very cool voice, so I guess that counts for something. Oh, and here we have Club, a very tall guy with claws, although he doesn't seem so tall here. Best strategy for him is to let him try and jump over you, and then it's time to kick some back. And Club, Kenshiro killed him in a fairly cool way by driving some knees into his back and pressing a pressure point that caused him to bend over backwards and tense his muscles with such force that his back snapped. That probably kinda sucked, but it was cool to watch. And here is Heart, one of the more famous flunky villains. You have to kill him by punching his gut until he dies, which is weird because in the source material that's exactly what you didn't want to do with Heart, because when Kenshiro tried to attack him straight on, he got his hand stuck in his fat. And here's Shin himself. When we go into a boss fight, as you can see, we zoom in and have some more detailed sprites, which is pretty cool. The boss fights had way better music in Black Belt, unfortunately. Some of the best boss music I've ever heard on the SMS. This isn't bad or anything, it was just so much cooler on Black Belt. I may do a little bonus footage of that if I am so inclined at the end of this. Shin's very fast, but not all that dangerous. You can just keep zoning him with jump kicks like so. And when you wear him down, you just have to finish him off with a punch, and some cool shit happens. And I should have him down far enough right about now. Alright. Hokuto Hyakuretsu Ken! Yes, it's the 100 crack Fist of the North Star. Ata! And here's Kenshiro's girlfriend Yuria, except it's not really her, it's just a doll. Yuria, according to Shin, committed suicide, but she's not really dead at this point. It's all very involved and plotty, and I'm not going to get into it in too much depth. Watch the series, it's good stuff. Anywho, here is our second stage, which covers the Godland arc. Godland was made up by a bunch of religious fanatics who used to be part of an elite army unit called the Red Berets. This is a post-apocalyptic Mad Max kind of setting, by the way, and the Godland soldiers are some of the only guys to survive the nuclear attack. And they figured because of their training and the fact that they were able to survive the strike, or the nuclear war, that they were chosen by God. And so now they pretty much run their territory with an iron fist, and we'll have no part of that. In the manga, they were doing their own thing. In the anime, they were made into flunkies of Shin because I guess the producers of the series wanted to make Shin a bigger deal. But yeah, they weren't originally supposed to be serving Shin. We should be coming up on our first mini-boss soon. Anytime now. You notice these guys have high jump powers, which makes them a little trickier. This is the Major. In the manga, he used a Garo in his weapon, but this seems a little more patterned after the anime version, who used a whip. Anyway, he's not too hard. Kenshiro looped his Garo/whip around his neck, and then hit a pressure point that made his hands move slowly apart. So he cut his head off with the Garo, or strangled himself with his own whip, depending on whether it was the comics or the anime. Anyway, one of Ken's sadistic but cool ways of putting paid to the unfortunate flunkies of the big bads who usually got off a little easier. Usually because they had some sort of, sob backstory that made Kenshiro somewhat sympathetic to them, even if he, killed them anyway. Anyway, yeah, we're punching dudes and they're exploding. Par for the course. Sometimes power-ups fly by overhead, and you can do that high crouch jump to retrieve them, but there haven't been any yet, which is kind of unusual. Usually you see at least one by now. Anyway, moving right along. You could not stand on objects in Black Belt. I don't know why they took that out, but they did. It's not particularly helpful, but just one thing you can do in Hokuto no Ken that you couldn't do in the altered US version. And here is another mini-boss. Oop, can't duck the middle height ones. This is Mad Sarge, who was an expert with knives and also used hollow throwing knives that sucked Ken's blood out. But then he just kind of flexed his giant pecs and the knives popped out and clattered on the floor. Anyway, Sarge, Ken just punched a big-ass hole through his torso, if I recall correctly. Gotta keep up on the deaths. And we're moving on to our boss fight, which is versus the Colonel. He hears it's amazing when the famous purple stuffed worm in Flapjaw Space does a Rob Link on Harakiri Rock. Anyway, the Colonel was the leader of Godland, and a master of one of the Nanto styles. If you get a bunch of punches on this guy, you start using these cross punches, and then eventually you poke him in the head. He just stumbles and falls and then explodes in the game. In the anime and manga, when Ken poked him in the forehead, his skeleton exploded out through his skin. Unfortunately, we don't get to see that happen in the graphics in this game, but at least he still blows up. Yeah. Stage 3. This is based on the Jackal story arc, in which Ken was dealing with a biker gang headed by a dude named Jackal. Jackal had a cameo in the movie where he was an attendant of Jaggy, and when he insulted Jaggy, he got his head blown up. In the source material, he had no connection to Jaggy. Anyway, this is Fox, who is just an underling of Jackal, sorry. And you can treat this guy exactly like Club from the first stage. He's the only mini-boss on this level. In the manga, Kenshiro kinda ninja-killed Fox while he was taking a piss, which is pretty funny. Sadly, there's no piss assassinations in this game, which is too bad because every video game needs more piss assassinations. Even Mario Brothers. And this is Devil Rebirth, who Jackal kinda tricked into trying to kill Kenshiro for him. You have to be a little careful with Devil because if you get too close, he can use a stomp attack that is an instant kill. But if you just stay slightly out of range and keep jump kicking, that's all it takes. And we use the 7 points of death to take him down. Devil Rebirth was really huge, probably the biggest enemy Ken ever fought, which is why we fought him in our small sprite mode, and he was so much taller than us. And that's about all the time I've got for today. There's not a whole lot more game left, so we should be able to finish it up in part 2. Until then, I'm Un, and thanks for watching.